Auf der Baustelle lernt man Menschen gut kennen. Paul und Wood in San Francisco, wir haben gemeinsam Bruckner erlebt. So, a very warm welcome, Paul. So, the first time we met is ages ago, but we have one strong connection. When Nick and I staged a Bruckner Symphony with Carl Sinclair and Pacific Symphony at the Californian West Coast, Paul was one of the dear friends just being ready to help. So that's not just a colleague, it's a good friend. And I'm so happy to have him here because I couldn't imagine a better expert on the art of Stanley Kubrick. And of course, Stanley Kubrick with the 2001 Space Odyssey is the master of anti-gravity. So I asked Paul to prepare a few notes on Stanley Kubrick's no-gravity design. The stage is yours. Thank you.
Excellent. Hello. I'm very thrilled to be here. And thank you, Clemens. Thank you, Nick. Just a quick thing. I've been a filmmaker for about 30 years, both in New York and California. And as a filmmaker, there are certain golden rules that I apply. Really three major golden rules. Number one, get the film done on time, be on budget, and be prepared. So know your setups. And Stanley Kubrick violated every one of those rules for 2001: A Space Odyssey, made in 1968, and we're all the better for it. His rules, he was 2 years late, he was $4 million over budget, and he walked on the set every day not knowing his first setup. So I saw 2001 originally when I was 10 years old, and it changed my life with its inspired vision, as over time I've understood more or less of what this film really means to me. And today I hope to share how 2001 inspired me with Kubrick's no-gravity design. So if you can go to the next slide, please. So the story of 2001 is about the evolution of humankind and begins with primeval humans, and in the space of a single cut, evolves from a boneless spaceship. So if you recall, in the beginning of the film, it begins with the dawn of man, where it's basically apes that are visited by an alien monolith, and that monolith helps them to get to the next stage of their evolution. So within one cut, Stanley Kubrick moved from 300,000 years ago to 2001, and one of the most amazing cuts in film history. So the film, it's an epic story of nature and/or aliens who appear in the form of a black monolith, which appears in various sections. And the purpose of the monolith is to teach humans to ascend to higher evolutions, forming alignments of the planets here that appear to primates, then appear to astronauts on the moon, then seek a signal in deep space. So we see this evolution from primate through rebirth and new humanity. Next slide, please. So moving from the dawn of man through to astronauts who age to a transformation is really part of a series of designs that Kubrick really focused on. And we're going to start talking about the evolutionary design initially. So Kubrick, with 2001, made the first science fiction epic that really showed the tension between gravity's hold and the promise of weightlessness. So we see the grip shoes, and we also see that the landscape and the sets were transformed in terms of this weightless environment. And here we have a stewardess that's grabbing or picking a pen right out of thin air. In terms of weight and weightless design, Kubrick built a centrifuge for one of the spaceships, and that was held by artificial gravity, and as we, the viewers, are suspended over it viewing this. So you have a person right here, and then you have a person right there. So he had the opportunity with 2001 to really explore anti-gravity. Next slide, please. And this included a zero-gravity toilet, which I believe is over in the treehouse, with 10-point instructions, as they are here. So that's Kubrick's dry humor, making fun of basic human needs with a zero-gravity toilet. Next slide, please. So his design also went to relational. So the compositions, and Kubrick is extremely precise about his compositions. There's a lot of negative space between people, and he takes advantage of the wide Cinerama screen to show these spaces between people in the attempt to communicate. And he was also fascinated with just basic human functions, like eating. For whatever reason, Kubrick is fascinated by people eating in his, in his films. So he has the primates eating, and then astronauts. And in this particular case here, although 2001 was very scientifically based, in the film you'll see that the liquid that he's drinking out of actually moves down into, and up, which shouldn't happen in gravity. So that was one of his big mistakes there. Next slide, please. And the design was a connective design. So he's connecting in terms of the touching of the monolith here, of the primates, and the astronaut there, and the pointing to the monolith at the conclusion. That's really connecting humans to this higher intelligence in very tactile ways to deepen the mysteries as it appeared at key moments in the evolution. And this is interesting, particularly because of the AI focus these days. So this is HAL 9000, the onboard computer on the Jupiter mission. And Kubrick was fascinated by the contrast between the computer eyes and the human eye. And this is various manifestations of the, in a way, the humanity that HAL 9000 was showing as he planned out sort of a murderous scheme with the astronauts. So that was Kubrick's AI contribution. Next slide. And in the last part of 2001, Kubrick breaks all the rules. So the 3-act conventions, he transforms into a vision and visualization of inner and outer space where gravity holds no bounds. And appropriately, this title of the section of the film is Beyond the Infinite, which truly it is. And that leads to the last slide, which is really transmutative. And that's where the birth of a completely altered organism with an embryonic star child is born in an unconventional, radical promise of humanity's next evolution. So, hopefully I've given you a little bit of a taste of Kubrick's kind of anti-gravity design through various mechanisms. And I'll close with a little bit of a story on how 2001 initially came out in 1968. So this was the original poster that MGM Studios decided to put out. And it's a very conventional poster in terms of portraying what you would expect in a science fiction film at that time. Spaceship, space, Earth, and an explanation. And the initial release in 2001 did not do very well. There were a lot of people that were very confused by the message. And this poster didn't help by portraying it incorrectly. Though it's a space mission, it definitely goes into another direction. So Stanley Kubrick was approached by a very young member of the MGM publicity, and he suggested that instead of this poster, that they really put forward the difference 2001 makes. And this is the floating space child at the end of the film, and the tagline of The Ultimate Trip. So here you're moving from a very conventional approach to a very radical approach. And I think that that's something that really summarizes Kubrick's vision. And in closing, I hope this little journey into the anti-gravity designs inspires you to take the ultimate trip over the anti-gravity day. Thank you, Clemens, for this opportunity to show you what changed my vision of what art and creativity can do and how it can evolve. Thank you, and have a wonderful anti-gravity day.
Thank you.
Thank you.